Hello, catalyzers. Last week we read from my Substack article um, about the K9 unit and the North Star interlocal agreement in Skagit County, and I went to the mayor's coffee and had a very interesting exchange with the mayor. I'm still wrapping my head around it, and I've got a bunch of public records and interviews to do. So there's no Substack this week, but I'm still going to read from some local Skagit media. And I did publish something in the Skagit newsletter. No, sorry, the Skagit Clubhouse newsletter. And if you're unfamiliar with the Skagit Clubhouse, it's this amazing place for people who are living with mental illness and need a place to experience life without having to explain yourself so much. It's a safe place to come and get involved in caring for a community space and learning new skills, getting employment support, and exploring anything that you need to work on for personal advocacy and all that kind of stuff. I'll put a link down below in the description, and a link to the Skagit Clubhouse newsletter, which I helped produce, but mostly I just submitted some things and gave my opinion about what everybody else was doing. So I didn't really have a big hand in it. So anyway, this is actually something I wrote back in the first week of January. It was sort of my, what is it called? A resolution post, my New Year's resolution post. But instead of a resolution, I decided to do an experiment. And the name of the article is my 2026 Chronic Loneliness Experiment. In recent years, along with regular therapy, I've been making strides in building healthy routines that help me metabolize and reduce the impact of past traumas. I've been more social and going to support groups. However, regardless of how many social activities I attend, I'm still struggling with chronic loneliness. I was meeting people, but still felt lonely. Even after having a marvelous time with a great group of people, I still faced loneliness. Once I got home, I would sit in my comfy chair, sobbing until I became tired enough to go to bed, where I'd lie awake, imagining other people having family or close friends. I was heading into a downward spiral. I couldn't let go of my theory that I was just too weird and can't have the kind of relationships I craved. However, I've been discussing this with my therapist, peer support counselors, and even ChatGPT. I've decided to reframe how I approach new acquaintances and connections in 2026. I'm treating it like an experiment, and I've already had a little taste of what it might do for me after just 1 week. What follows is the framework I'm using for that experiment. Downgrading relationships. I remove relationships from the category of meaning production and reassign them to load regulation, not morally, but structurally, and not forever. What relationships are doing now, implicitly. Right now, relationships in my life are carrying some or all of these jobs: validation of my reality, witnessing my complexity, emotional regulation, future building / alignment, proof that I'm not alone, repair of historic lack. That's too many jobs. When relationships are overloaded like this, every interaction becomes high stakes, evaluative, exhausting, fragile. The downgrade declaration, the pivot. I explicitly narrow what relationships are allowed to do. And here's the internal rules. For now, relationships exist to provide limited contact and low stakes presence. They are not responsible for understanding me, holding my history, or stabilizing my life. This is not emotional withdrawal, it's a mandate reduction. The old success criteria that I'm deleting. So, the old success criteria in my connections was depth, mutual understanding, consistency, growth, resonance, being seen properly. My new success criteria, that I choose two at most, is contact happens without fallout. I do not feel worse afterward. No repair work is required. If those are met, the relationship is working, even if it's shallow. Even if it's shallow, awkward, or intermittent. Reclassifying people into functional buckets. This is mechanical, not moral. So, low contact safe, occasional check-ins, no emotional processing, no future talk. Task or context bound, tied to an activity, project, or shared space, ends when the context ends. Ambient social, proximity without intimacy, shared environment, not shared interior. Nobody is required to move up. Nobody is secretly being evaluated. This alone reduces pressure dramatically. Installing implicit ceilings. This is where the downgrade actually sticks. Examples of ceilings I use: no major disclosures without a clear reason. No relationship-based decisions about identity or direction. No interpreting silence or drift. No escalation during periods of exhaustion. Ceilings prevent accidental upgrades. So, replacing reciprocity with asymmetry temporarily. Normal relational advice pushes reciprocity. The downgrade mode allows uneven contact, delayed responses, no keeping up, no performance of care. This does not make me unethical. It makes the system survivable. What I do not downgrade: important boundary, basic decency, consent, honesty about limits. That's an important one. I am reducing load, not becoming avoidant or manipulative. What this feels like when done correctly. Relationships feel quieter. Loneliness becomes cleaner, less charged. I stop scanning interactions for meaning. I no longer need companionship to do identity work. If I feel relief mixed with mild grief or embarrassment, that's correct. If I feel energized or inspired, I accidentally upgraded something. I mean, not that it's bad necessarily, but That's not where this experiment is taking me for now. Why this matters to me. I am capable of deep relational presence. That's precisely why relationships are expensive for me. Downgrading doesn't reject intimacy, it postpones it until it can be real instead of load bearing. Right now, relationships should not be scaffolding for my existence. They should be optional, bounded, and survivable. Looking ahead, I'm not doing this to stay alone forever. I'm doing it to stop burning myself out burning myself out on contact that can't carry what I'm asking of it yet. This is a middle phase, a way to keep showing up in the world without making every interaction a referendum on my worth or my future. Over time, as my life stabilizes and my nervous system gets more rest, some relationships may deepen naturally. If they don't, that's information, not failure. For now, this approach gives me room to breathe, to heal, and to build toward connections that are chosen and mutual, instead of load bearing by default. Now, I've actually fallen down on this experiment. I haven't really been keeping it up all that much. I've sort of fallen back into like old behaviors, but the recent publishing of this article in the Skagit Clubhouse newsletter has renewed my interest in staying within the bounds of this experiment. I don't know if I can do it for all of 2026, but it's still a way for me to collect interesting data on my own behaviors and habits. Because instead of me going, oh, don't do this, don't do that, just reduce what relationships are supposed to do at the top level, and then I don't have to evaluate every single connection for all of those things. Just allow myself to stay silent on many things, really. There's a lot coming out of me, or that wants to come out of me, every time I make a connection. I am probably the most earnest person I know. And to be honest, that can get me into trouble sometimes. But I'm doing this experiment just so I can see what I'm like when I just don't put so much pressure on my connections. Like, just sort of ease up. I'm sure I'm sure many people in the community might be appreciative of that, really, especially since, I just recently started going out into the community and meeting people on a more personal level. So this is mostly for my personal connections, but it also works for professional and institutional connections too. So yeah. So anyway, that's my experiment that I'm going to be running. And we'll see how much I can keep myself from overloading a connection. uh, you know, nothing is failure. It's just data. It's information. I don't fail, I learn. So that's what I'm going to be working on for the rest of this year. And if you guys want, you can take a look at my article and try it out for yourself. So, in the meantime, get some rest and hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.